Who am I taking into 2021? The question all of us need to ask ourselves. So 2020 has been an unprecedented period in our lives, and I think it's fair to say that all of us have been affected to some degree, whether this impact is positive or negative. For me personally, 2020 has been the year where I've really understood my position within my relationships, whether this is with my family, my friends, my work, as a neighbour, and all of the roles that I fill. For someone who has personally struggled with implementing boundaries way past the point of disrespect and toxicity, this year has taught me so much about how to understand, maintain, and develop healthy relationships. This is not an easy video for me to film, but I really feel that the wisdom that I've gathered will benefit you as much as it has benefited me in almost instantaneously having better and healthier relationships. So let's get straight into it. My first tip is to stop expecting everyone to be everything. Tell me if this resonates with you. When I love hard. When I commit really deeply. Up until now, there hasn't been a concept in my mind of not being all in when it comes to my friendships and my relationships. And one of the biggest downfalls with this type of attitude is that you then start to expect the same from other people. Everyone fills different roles within a relationship. So someone might be the fun friend or someone might be the wise friend. But when you're expecting deep, reflective conversations with your fun friend and you're not getting it, you cannot be mad at that friend. As soon as you stop expecting everyone to be everything, you will stop trying to bend other people to what you want them to be. You'll start seeing people as they actually are, rather than this illusion that you've built up in your mind about what they should be. Once you do this, you will firstly find the relationship less exhausting, and secondly, you'll enjoy the relationship for what it actually is. Another thing to understand is that it is okay to have different friends for different things. You can have your work friends, you can have school or college friends, you can have weekend hangout friends. In the same vein, friends can serve different purposes in your life. Some friends might be the ones that motivate you, some might be the ones that you have fun with, others might be the ones that ground you. You don't always have to mix your friends, and you don't need to operate all dimensions of your personality all the time. For me, when I came to learn this, I found myself enjoying my relationships so much more because different parts of me were being allowed to thrive in different environments. One thing that I learned over time was that, as well as having different groups of friends, it's perfectly acceptable to have different time frame friends. You could have daily friends, friends that you see once a month, friends that you see only on special occasions or a few times a year. When you really understand this, the dynamics within your relationships become so much healthier because, number one, you aren't putting pressure on all of your relationships to operate at the same level. And number two, depending on what's going on within the friendships, you can position or progress people from being daily to weekly to monthly friends, rather than having the attitude of you're either in my life or you're not. One thing that I invite you to think about is your purpose in the relationship. Are you the giver? Are you the receiver? Are you the dependent one? Are you the one that provides motivation and reassurance? Do you give great advice? Are you the funny one? Once you understand your role within that dynamic, you can start having a think about whether you want to continue filling that position. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if being the funny one is starting to exhaust you, or if being the constant motivator is beginning to drain your mental and physical energy, then maybe it's time to start rethinking and repositioning your own role. An essential factor in any relationship is to be clear of your own values. If you don't know what your values are, how will you know if they've been violated? I say that when you're emotionally involved in any situation, you probably overlook or let slide a bit more than you would from a stranger or someone you don't feel a deep connection with. So say if your boundary is here, you might end up being pushed a little further than you'd like. But if you aren't clear on what your boundary is, firstly, how are you going to know that it's been crossed? And secondly, how are you going to communicate it to others around you? Relationships can become problematic when there are consistent boundary violations. But if the other person doesn't know that this is a line that cannot be crossed, how can you expect them to stay behind it? The next thing to think about is the quality of your relationships. Which of your relationships are tiring you out, and which of those have you neglected? Often when we are the giver in a relationship, our attention is easily diverted to those relationships who seemingly require more from us. This, of course, can have a negative impact on your own mental and physical health. But what it also does is it causes our attention to be spread thinly between the relationships that are, on the surface of it, needing more from us. Some people struggle to ask for help. Others may see that you're busy and they may not want to burden you. Others may take a back seat because in this relationship dynamic, You are the taker. So take a moment to identify the quality of your relationships and resolve to decide which ones are worth nurturing and which ones it's time to take a step back from. When thinking about setting boundaries, one of the reasons why it can feel so tough is because we develop black and white thinking. We feel that putting in boundaries means the end of a relationship. We think that a boundary is permanent, and we may be scared of the repercussions of this. We might even question whether we're being selfish. I read a quote which epitomizes my thoughts on this beautifully. Let's be clear. Setting healthy boundaries doesn't mean you have no stake in the other people's problems or spiritual concerns. It simply means that you aren't solely responsible for them. So I ask you again, who do you want to take into 2021? But before you answer, I also invite you to ask this question about yourself. Which version of yourself are you choosing to move forward with? Which parts of your character have you decided are strong and you'd like to see more of in your future self? And which parts of your character are you choosing to develop and improve upon? So now tell me, who are you taking into 2021?